TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Hey gang, welcome in. Welcome to In the Batter's Box. My name is Scott Webb. Some people know me as Beam 'em Up Scotty, and I'm glad to be here. I was off yesterday. I think there was only 7 games yesterday. I didn't bet one game yesterday. So that's kind of why I don't do things on a Monday. There's not enough games. There's not enough stuff to going on. Sometimes there's value. I still play. But there's usually not enough stuff to really have a show or talk about or do, stuff like that. So when it comes down to it, we take Mondays off. So it's great. Now we have Tuesday with a short day yesterday. These will be a lot of times first games today. So and I get excited about that because, one of the things I mentioned on Sunday is sports books now have Friday or Thursday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Sunday being the last day of the matchups that they have going on before the teams travel. So that's going to be when they make their best numbers and have made adjustments to see how the teams played and what they look like together and so forth. So I think what's great about days like today is that these are new matchups. These teams just moved and they just transitioned. And this is generally when you can have the softest numbers. And then tomorrow they'll be a little sharper and the next day a little sharper just because they get to see them. And they get to see them, how they work together or work against each other and whether or not the line was right or wrong to begin with. And that's something I wanted to talk a little bit about today. Is line movement in sports in general, right? And then we'll relate it to baseball. But so a sports book comes out with a number, and there's 15 games today, and they posted a number. So our job is to go find what numbers we like and think are our best options and give us the best value to bet into those lines. And then once we do that, the numbers get adjusted or so forth, and they get sharper and they get narrower and the margins get better for a sports book. So as we go along and kind of look at this, we have to understand a couple of things. So I charted out my Webby odds this morning and I backtracked them to look at just the opening numbers on all the games, right? So the first game today is Chicago and Baltimore. And that game opened this morning minus 145 for Baltimore. Well, if you try to go play it right now, it's going to be at least 169 for Baltimore. And then when I pull it up a different way, I can kind of look at this. You kind of look at it and you go, well, the best number available right now is minus 170. And FanDuel is 178. Bovada's 188. Some of these places, DraftKings 180, Superbook 170. Hey, Jay Barry, man, thanks for the support there. He says, Batter's Box always epic with Scott, and I appreciate that, man. Working hard out here. So one of the things I wanted to make sure I share is what goes into a line move. And when we're betting into these things, what do we want to look for? What's the point, right? So you can't tell me that and there's places out here, and I'm gonna not be probably friendly to some handicapper style out here in just a second, but there's people that all they do is they go look at splits on betting screens, and that's what they do all day long. So they sit there and they go and say, well, this book is showing that 47% of the money is on this side and 53% of the money is on that side. And then they go and say, well, this many tickets are on this side and this many tickets are on that side. And then they tell you, Well, because all these tickets are over here. The tickets mean that that's public money. That public money comes in and they just put $20 here and $30 there and $40 here and $20 here tickets, right? And then your heavier bettors, your more sophisticated guys, they come in with the cash and they load up, $200, $300,000, $2,000, $5,000 cash tickets. That's what they tell you. And it's all bullshit. And I don't mean to be cussing, but that's what it is. It's all made up. It's their theory on what they see. And I tell you this because I want to be as clear with this as I can. A sports book needs to mitigate losses. That's what they do. They want to have as small a loss as they possibly can. So when they put numbers together and they move lines and they move the numbers, they're also taking into account things like prop betting and first five numbers and run lines and total number of out money loss they have on this game. So in a lot of ways, they're willing to go and say, you know what, I'm going to make this number whatever I make it for this money line side, but I'm going to make it really hard on the first five, or I'm going to make it really hard on no run in the first inning, or I'm going to make it really hard on a run line or whatever, so that they balance their money out as a whole. And these guys that tell you that the split screens and all this stuff, they don't see any of that. They don't certainly see parlay exposure, right? So if you're looking at today's board and you're looking at the numbers for today, I guarantee you that the Boston Red Sox, the Houston Astros, the Texas Rangers, they're all in big money line parlays, right? So what's the exposure there? And what does a sports book then have to make their numbers to limit the exposure that they have? Right? Maybe they need to get money on one side, on this side of that bet, so that offsets the money that they got on the other side of the bet. And that's what they do. So my point to you is Jeff Dawson does this really great. He makes a great point. And the point is respect the opening number. The opening number is made for a reason. It's generally speaking probably a number that's not got maybe has some bias in it, but not a lot. It has some. And then based on the flow of the money coming in and what it's being bet on, then the sports book has to then change the numbers around to try to entice or detice. I guess, I don't know if detice is a word, but to get people to either bet on one side or not on the other side, right? So they need to offset losses, and they need to look at that kind of stuff in a lot of different ways. But there are other situations that do come up that are specific for what we're looking for as bettors, that we need to understand certain things happen. So today, and we've been talking about it for a week or so, the Philadelphia Phillies have been playing, and today the opening number was minus 140 today against the Dodgers. And they've been playing a little bit shorthanded, right? Bryce Harper hasn't been there. Schwarber hasn't been there. So their offense is, Real Muto's not there. So, and Turner just got back. So he's only been there for maybe 2 weeks. So this has been a team that's sort of not really been the team of what they have been. They're sort of a shell of themselves. But I want to make sure we're clear on a couple things. The line opened at 140 this morning, and if you go look at it right now, and I'm going to flip my screen over because these things they move pretty fast here a little bit. And in this case, the best number you can get is 154. Bovada's 160, FanDuel 158, 162 at DraftKings, 165 at the Superbook. So you got a lot of variance there, but it's certainly not 140 anymore. And I will tell you that the main reason for this, there's a cause. Well, Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber are in tonight's lineup. So this team is now as fully healthy as they can be because Real Muto's still got that knee problem and is not probably going to play step for a little bit. So when that news came out and these people are there, then people come in and put in their money. So what would be good there, and I had this as a show play, but I can't do it right now. I have to do it a different way. But what would have been good there is to bet that game early had you had that information. Let me tell you this little secret. The little secret is that the Philadelphia news people had put this out over the weekend that these guys were going to play today. They were going to be in the lineup. So it wasn't like yesterday's news. I mean, like shocking information that you should have known about. So I bet this game as early as I could bet it. And I've played this game and I'm on Philadelphia side. Minus 140 is way better than paying minus 160 or minus the best number, is 158, 160, whatever it is, 165 at all these different places, right? So utilize the information you have to the best advantage that you get, because sometimes you lose your edge. And so if I told you that you could play, so let me ask you this question. If I told you you could play this at 140 this morning, why would you want to play it now at the best number you can get it, which is like 155, 160? You wouldn't. So don't. So that's what I'm trying to teach is people find themselves in spots and they go, oh my God, I just found out about this. I got to go bet this information. Well, let me tell you, it's too late. It's too late. You can't bet it now. The value in that is gone. The line is correct as it sits right this minute. So you don't have any value in betting it now. The value was in betting it before, right? I don't care how much you think Bobby Miller is terrible and how much you think Wheeler's great. The value in the bet is now gone. So you've got to capitalize on these things quickly and be ready to act, obviously, when you find something like that, right? So I think that's number one is what constitutes a line move. Well, in this case, the line move happened because you had a lineup change. Sometimes it happens, and if I look at my other screen here for a second, I can look at it from a perspective that pitching changes happen, right? So somebody comes on and you've seen your screens and you look at the odds and a pitcher's listed in red. Well, that means that he's a different pitcher than was supposed to pitch. So Chris Sale, for example, he's pitching today and he was supposed to pitch yesterday. So they held him back a day so he could pitch today. Well, I get why they want him to pitch against Gallen today and have a better opportunity for Atlanta to win the game. So that makes sense. So they want him to do that. And Atlanta won yesterday. I mean, they had to win in late fashion, but they still had to win, and they did with Elder. Cincinnati today has Lodolo. Well, Lodolo wasn't the original listed pitcher. It was Montas. Well, I get it. He's coming off the disabled list. They got to put him in. So here he is. He's in there. Montas will probably pitch tomorrow. I don't know. I haven't looked yet. But my point to you is lines will change based on all of those things. And then you got to sit there and go, well, what do I believe? Like, so for example, the Atlanta Braves game today is Chris Sale and Zach Gallen. Right now, you can't. The number is Atlanta minus 115-ish, somewhere in there. But it's showing me that the line opened at Arizona minus 125. It did not. It may have been Arizona minus 125 when Bryce Elder was supposed to pitch. Well, they moved him forward and moved him over, moved Sale back. So that number is not right at all. That 125 is not the right number. So when you're looking at these things, you got to keep a lot of stuff in mind as to where you're trying to see your value to make a bet, right? So that there's pluses and minuses to some of this. You don't want to get let me make sure I say this right. You don't want to get so involved in certain things that you're guessing as to who's pitching, who's not pitching, and all that. None of that. That stuff will take care of itself at some point in time. Timing matters because when something gets announced, you kind of got to know that it's going to happen so that you can jump in there and be ahead of your fellow bettors. And I say that in a way that you have to understand that, yes, you want to beat the sports book because they're the ones who are going to pay you, but the ones who move the number are your fellow bettors. So you want to get in front of the fellow bettors and get a better number than that guy got. That's what you're trying to do. So just be careful on what constitutes a line move. Weather can do that. If there's supposed to be rain, for example, and you think that there's a chance that this game might get rained out after 5 innings. Well, you certainly don't want to bet a full game, because if you're ahead, you may not, depending on what your book rules are, you won't win anyway. You get your money back. So you're going to try to figure out, well, first 5 this, first 5 that, and then where's my value and what pitchers are pitching and all that stuff. So weather has an impact. It certainly has an impact in football or other sports, wind and that kind of stuff. And lineup changes, if certain guys don't play, then people run to the window and go, I'm going to play against that team because, I don't know, Correa is not playing tonight. So if he's not playing tonight, I'm going to run over there and I'm not betting Minnesota. I'm going to bet the other side. I made that up. I don't know if he's playing or not. I'm just throwing that out there as a name. But the point being is that that's what constitute line changes. But the majority of line changes that people try to tell you reasoning for, just don't buy it, because they don't have enough information to guide you correctly. Just tune it out. There's a guy that works for VSiN that wrote books and does all this stuff and writes all these little things about all this stuff. And he's kind of popular, and, he's a good kid. He's a good guy. I'm not saying anything negative about him, other than his whole critique, his whole thing is, well, I know what the sports book wants because they're moving numbers, and if they're moving numbers because it's based on the idea that tickets are public money and bigger, heavier money comes from pros, and, the sports book wants to align with the pros, and they're going to take advantage of the others. So this is the side you bet on. I'm just going to tell you that you're guessing, and you don't have to go. You don't have to do all that. It's good to line read. It's good to kind of have an understanding of what's happening. And if you're a top-down bettor, okay, so a top-down bettor means, and I'm going to pull up my unabated screen here because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 11 sports books right here. And the first game is the Baltimore Orioles. The best line I can get right now is minus 172. Bovada's 194. FanDuel's 178. DraftKings 192, 190, 189. All down the line. But Bet Online, boy, they're at 171. Okay. So a top-down bettor is going to go, man, I can get that at 171 at Bet Online, and I have to pay 180, 185, 190 at all these other places. That's value. I'm going to go bet it right now. And that's what they do. So they don't care about the teams. They don't even know who the players are. And when you hear people say, I bet numbers, I don't bet teams, that's what they mean. They're top-down bettors. They go and they look at where they have accounts. And if they have 10 or 15 open accounts and they can pick one, then they're picking off sports books shopped to other sports books. That's what they do. That's what top-down betting means. And if you get good at top-down betting, you will win money because you're getting the best of the number every single time that you bet. So you're going to be a better bettor if you do that. And that will also teach you what a good bet is and what a good bet looks like and why it was a good bet. It's not a good bet because this team is 2-14 on the road on Tuesday and the first series that they play, and you're going to bet against that. That's just circumstances that happen. That has, especially in baseball, that has nothing to do with the outcome of your bet. You need to know two things. The first thing you need to know is, did I make a good bet? Am I making good bets, period? That's the first thing that you have to do. The second thing you have to do is if you're going to utilize handicapping and handicapping skill sets, and handicapping just means I'm going to compare this team to this team and who should win based off this comparison and how much should they win by. So if you do that, you need to be good at creating your own line and your own number. And most people don't know how to make a baseball number. They have a general idea of how to make a football number, but in most cases, they're not right. It's all math. You can make these numbers based off winning percentages and based off of expected number of wins in a season, right? So the NFL comes out and says, this team's expected to win 10 games. Okay, well, turn that into a point spread, because you can. And then that's a power rating that's legit. It's legit because do you know how many people bet into that number? And how many people and how many sports books then vet that number and make that number great? Thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, a million people maybe. There's a lot of people that bet into that number, and they make that number real. And then you can turn those numbers into your own power ratings, and then your power ratings generate your lines, right? So if you don't have a line that says this team is, -3 or this team is +2, and you kind of combine them together, and if they're playing at home, -3 +2, that means they're -5, and then give them 2 points for home field. That team's a 7-point favorite, then you're doing it wrong. Because I know what other people do. They go out and say, well, my scale's 100, and this team is 100, then this team is 99, 98, 90, and then they go down and they do all this other stuff. That's all made up stuff. It's all made up. Quit making up stuff. Do the stuff that works and do it the right way, because the point of this is you can, and you don't have to make up anything. It's fact-based and it's there, right? So football works that way. Basketball works that way. Baseball works that way. All the sports work where you can make your own number. And then if you're a top-down bettor, you go and say, well, this is the best number that is available to me by that book. What's my number say? Well, my number says it should be XYZ. I can get value at any of these places. Well, where's my best value? Then you make your bets and you go on from there. So there's a lot of variance to all of this stuff, but I wanted to make sure that we talked about what top-down betting looked like, what line value is to a degree, what constitutes line movement, where does line movement come from, and what people get caught up in that makes no sense. And then sometimes what people get caught up in, maybe they get lucky and they win a couple times, or they win this, or they didn't, so they think it's the gospel. Look, man, what you want to do is you want to have a process where you can go back and you can go, you know what, I repeated this and I won with that same process yesterday or the day before or the day before. Well, I lost today, but the process is good. So, you're never going to win all these bets. You're just not. But what you can do, and this is what I'm going to advise forever while we're on this channel, what we're going to do is we're not going to make any dumb bets. We're not going to make bets that are just stupid and loose because we can't afford it. It hurts our bankroll too much. No dumb bets. We're going to make good bets. And if the good bets lose, then by God, the good bets lost and, wasn't our night. And we're going to move on to the next day and we're going to go from there. So having said that, I think it's time to start talking about some games, right? So I think some of you are here for that purpose. Hopefully some of you are here for some of the stuff that I just went over. But I think that, when I looked at this, and again, guys, comments-wise, put some comments down. If you have questions or you want me to talk about something, I'll be glad to do it. That's number one. Number two, I'm not going to, there's 15 games on the board. One of them got rained out, so there's 14 games. I can't go through the whole slate. But what I can do is I picked out a couple games that I think are interesting. If they're games that you're betting, then perfect. If they're games that you didn't know what you wanted to bet and you wanted to go bet and you like these, okay, great, you go bet those. But if you had a question or you wanted, you've got your own game picked out and you wanted me to either give you advice on it or do whatever, I'll do that too. So comments, interaction is great. I'm looking for that. So first thing I wanted to talk about tonight, because these games are a little later in the night. So I'm not pressed for time to get these things. I did want to bet, and one of the games that I wanted to go over was the Philadelphia Philly bet. It's not going to work now because the line has changed. When I wrote this stuff up, the line was 139, I think was the number, and the number is now minus 165, something like that. So it's not going to be a play to be able to go with. So we're going to skip that one. But I am going to go over. I'm trying to look at the timing on these. So the one that I think that we should go over first is going to be the Texas Ranger game today. So let me flip all this stuff around to the right screens because I've got all this other stuff going on here. So the Texas Rangers. So the Rangers have Scherzer on the mound, and the Rangers are playing the Angels, and the Angels have Rowan C. Contreras on the mound. So the line in the game is Texas. They're minus 175 now. So they're a huge favorite in the game. So we're not going to go that way. We're actually not going to go run line either here. What I was looking at, and the best way that I looked at it was I'm looking at Contreras. So I don't know if you guys remember who he is, but Rowan Z. Contreras played for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He came up and was part of the same time with Tyone and these kids, Keller and him. They were supposed to be, the Skeens guys. They're supposed to be those guys. Well, he sort of flamed out a little bit. He throws real hard, and they actually just cut him loose. So he's gone. So the Angels picked him up. The Angels put Rowan Z. Contreras in the bullpen. So he's been throwing 2 innings as a bullpen guy. And he's not been doing terrible, but he hasn't been doing great either. But they know he's a former starting pitcher. So they've started him as what I would call an opener. He hasn't gone more than a couple of innings. So, I think that if you have a guy that is a long relief pitcher and you got him as a spot starter, he might go 4, 5, 6 innings. Rowan Z. Contreras hasn't done that. He's gone 2 or 3 innings. And I don't know if that's because he's been getting hit or if that's just because, his arm's not built up to that or what the scenario there is. But I'm assuming, and sometimes that's a good or a bad thing. Sometimes it's a good thing. But he's not ready to be a starter. And then looking at how his stuff is and all his mechanics and all that stuff. Remember, one of the things that we're trying to do, we're trying to pick out the worst pitchers in baseball and attack them. That's what we're doing. We want the bad guys on the mound, and then we want our offense to go kick the crap out of them. That's what we want. So I picked on Contreras today. Contreras metrics. Remember when I say metrics, I'm talking XFIP, Sierra, and FIP. His XFIP number is 5.30. There are 2 guys worse than him today, and his Sierra number is 5.21. There's only 1 guy worse than that. So he's like basically the second worst pitcher starting today. Now he's only going to go 2 or 3 innings, but that's okay because the next guy coming in and the next guy coming in, this is the Angels, right? The Angels have only won 40 games or not even 40 games. I mean, they've only won 20 some games. So they're not in a position where they're going to be putting this elite bullpen out there. And the other part that I liked in this particular case was Contreras walks guys. So not only are we going to have balls in play, because of he can't get them out. His whip rate is 1.54. His walk rate is 5.40, and his expected WOBA, weighted on base average. So I don't use batting average anymore. I don't use earned run average anymore. They don't define things enough. So a batting average, for example, classifies hits divided by at-bats, right? So and everybody's like, they all get up in this uproar about how many batting average, Nobody's trying to get a batting average anymore except Lewis or Eyes. Those are the only ones that are doing that. So weighted on base average is way more important. So it gives credit for example, if you hit a double, it means more than hitting a single. If you hit a triple, it means more than hitting a double or a single. And if you hit a home run, it means more than all that stuff. So you get credit for what your at-bat was in weighted on base average. But what's great about Sabermetrics is you sit there and go, well, wouldn't it be great if I could tell in the future what a pitcher is supposed to be able to give up based on his stuff that he's throwing and the offense? Well, they have those things. They have answers to almost every question. And it's called xWOBA. So it's the predicted measure of what an offense does, a little different than SOPS plus, but it's same conceptual. And he is, Rowan Z. Contreras is 0.391. Okay, so a batting average, a good batting average today is anything over, 240 is average. So, a batting average that's in, say, 260, 270 is really high, let alone somebody that's hitting 300. Well, weighted on base average is just slightly higher than that. So if you're a 250 weighted on base average as an average instead of say 230 as a batting average, you use 250, and then you look at what this guy's got. He's 391. He gets crushed with guys on base with hits, and if we're looking for a pitcher to pick on, he's it, right? We found one. So Rowan Z. Contreras is that. He is the pitcher with the second highest hard hit rate of all pitchers today. So that's not good. He makes mistakes, right? He's got more minus pitches than he does plus pitches. His WPA is in the negative. Remember, that's winning percent added. Those things define what we're trying to attack. Situationally for him, he's 10% worse than an average pitcher. He's 11% worse at home. And I'm not worried about where the Angels are in terms of what they're going to do, because I want to attack this pitcher, and I want to attack him. First of all, I want to look at the line. So I determined that the line's too high. I'm not paying minus 175. I think the line should be much lower, by the way. I'm also in a spot where I don't want to necessarily go with the run line because I don't know what I'm going to get out of Scherzer tonight. Scherzer's been good, but he's not great. And in fact, if I were to go back and look at Scherzer's stuff, right? We talk about stuff plus. His stuff plus, it's graded on 100 being kind of average, right? His stuff plus is an 80. There is only one pitcher worse than that tonight, and that one pitcher is Ben Lively in Cleveland. He's a 67. These guys don't have it anymore. So what makes Scherzer good? His location, the use of his pitches, meaning sequencing of what he throws, where he places them. He's really good at that. So when he's not on, he's going to get hit because he doesn't have that, other gear that he used to have. He's not there yet. So maybe he picks that up, and maybe he gets better as the season progresses from being injured or whatever. But he's not there now. So I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to go there. So I don't want to bet on them to cover lines, but I do think you can bet on them to score runs. My number in this game as it came out, where's my score number? I got him scoring 6 runs tonight. So I got him winning 6-4 is the score. And if you go and look at the total in that game, it's 4.5. So I like Texas over 4.5 against the Angels. Roansy Contreras, and against their bullpen. So I think that's play number one tonight. We'll go with the Texas Rangers. I'm writing this down. Texas Rangers is play number one. So play number two is a similar situation where we're going to pick on pitchers again, right? So how do we do that? What do we do? And how do we get involved? Well, you got to find bad pitchers. And one of the things you want to look at is their hard hit rate. So we said Roansy Contreras, he's only going to pitch a certain number of innings. So we're going to have to work on the bullpen a little bit. So theoretically, we might get 2 or 3 off of him, and then we got to pick up 2 more at the end. And our offense, well, let's go flip it to our offense. Texas's offense has to be doing well to make this work, because I didn't bring them up yet, and that's a main piece. They're number 4 in offense right now. They're doing really well. They have Texas has 5 guys that are hitting over 1 offensive award. They're 34% better than average offense right now, and they're 10th in isolated power. So this is an offense that can take advantage of a bad pitcher. You always got to make sure that you have that. Seager, Langford, Lowe, and Tavares all carrying that offense. So I like it. I think this works for our spot that we're looking at. The second spot is similar to that, but it's not quite as – it's 2 things, right? So one, it's not quite as defined as a bad pitcher. So this is the San Francisco Giants and the Toronto Blue Jays tonight. Snell is pitching for the Giants, and Kikuchi is pitching for Toronto. So I sit here and I kind of was really, really trying to figure out how do we do this and what do we do and where do we go, and because there's a lot of things in play with Blake Snell. You know, Blake Snell was the National League Cy Young Award-winning pitcher last year. I mean, he's a great pitcher. He hasn't pitched like it, but he is. He's a great pitcher. And they're going to face Toronto. And Toronto's offense currently is ranked 25th in all of baseball. It's not very good. That's not good. They only got 2 guys hitting, Springer and Horwitz. They got 5 guys not hitting right now. They're 16% worse than an average pitcher. But where their biggest problem is a lot of times, even though they have that, they got a guy or 2 that's hitting home runs, that they rank 28th out of 30 teams in isolated power. So some of the problems that Blake Snell has had is obviously control and walks and, giving up home runs and stuff. And he's had big innings, right, against him. But I'm not so sure you're going to run into that today. I think he's going to be – the best way I could say this is I think you're going to see a better Blake Snell. Now, I say that just because he's been hurt, and he goes out, he comes back, he goes out. He had a baby. His wife had a baby. He didn't have a baby. Then they come back and different things, right? So he's got a lot of stuff going on in his life. But I think Blake Snell is going to be pretty good tonight. Now, I say those things, and it's his first start since June the 2nd. And going back to then, he had a game score of 43 and a game score of 38. So his basic average and a game score of 40, which is below average. And for the season, he's a game score of 36. But those are better than it was. So he's got to step up. He's facing a bad offense. And this offense, by the way, if I can switch it over to here, this offense is bad against left-handed pitching. They are minus 7% versus left-handed pitching. So they don't hit lefties very good anyway. So now you got Blake Snell, former Cy Young Award winner, left-handed pitcher, going to face this team. And they got Kikuchi on the mound. Well, the Giants are 16% better against left-handed pitching than an average team. They rank in the top 5 of all of baseball against left-handed pitchers. They hit them very well, and that's because they have good right-handed batters. Chapman in the lineup and Ramos and those guys. They're going to in Soler. They have guys that can perform against left-handed pitchers, and they do, and they have. So I'm looking at this going, well, how good is Kikuchi? Well, Kikuchi's made 18 starts. He's won 5 games. 5 and 13. And his SOPS plus number on the last 28 days is 143. That means he's 43% worse than an average pitcher. 43. That's not very good. And in fact, he is the third worst pitcher on the board today in that regard in SOPS plus. That's not very good. So I like my chances with the Giants here. So the question then becomes is how do you bet them? Well, there's two ways. There's two ways. So the Giants offensively have kind of flooded back a little bit. That currently they're just in front of Toronto in terms of where they rank on offense. So you have two options. You can either play them in the first 5 innings because you're really jumping on Toronto's pitcher, or you can play them on the team total side. It's up to you, whichever way you want to go. Now, I think, and we talked about this with Atlanta the other day, right? We bet on Atlanta on the run line, and we got plus money value and won that bet, right? So I think you find the same solution here. You have a spot where you can take. You got two options. You can take the what's the number in this game now? You can take the Giants. And you have the Giants. I'm trying to pull them up here. There they are. The best number on the Giants right now is 124. It looks like it's basically 130, right? So the Giants are now minus 130. Well, earlier in the day, they weren't minus 130. They were minus 120 in the first 5 innings. So I think that where you want to go here is you can go two ways. Minus 130 is starting to get to a point where the value goes away. My number on the game, for example, I have the Giants at minus 106, so I don't really want to pay minus 130. I'd rather play the team total. So I think that's what you do. You go back, you go and say team total's 3.5. Give me over 3.5. Give me 4 runs, right? I looked them up. Then the last 10 games the Giants have played, they've scored 4 runs or more 8 times. That's pretty good, 8 out of 10 times, and we're saying that we're going to pick on a bad pitcher. I like it. I think that's probably better than trying to cover a run line or a first 5 or something like that. And if Kikuchi does pretty good, then you have still a shot at the bullpen. And their bullpen's not the greatest bullpen in the world in Toronto. So give me that. Give me the San Francisco Giants. Team total over 3.5, I think, is a good play, right? So we'll call that bet number 2 for the show tonight. And then one last bet for tonight. And God, I hate this team. And I lost with them the other day. But you gotta bet where you have value, and you gotta take a look at what you got going on. So Seattle tonight plays in San Diego, and Seattle just offensively, they just strike out all the time, and then they don't get big hits. But then, they will get a guy on base and hit a home run. So they'll get 2-4 runs, that way sometimes. But they're pitching a really good guy tonight, Logan Gilbert. Logan Gilbert's one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. He's probably, I would say, top 7, 8 top pitchers in all of baseball. He's really good. He gets a lot of strikeouts. Trying to pull up my numbers. His strikeout rate is 8.5. But his walk rate, he doesn't put anybody on base. His Sierra number is 3.2. These are all numbers that are in the best 25% of all of baseball. His whip number is 0.76. That means that there's a third or 3/4 of a guy gets on base every inning. Well, it's hard to score if you can't get a guy on base every inning. So I like that. I like the idea that he doesn't give up home runs. He's positive on the side of winning percent added, which means that he's not making mistakes. Great pitcher, and he's facing the San Diego Padres, good hitting team, very good hitting team against right-handers. So I like what I liked is that I think he can do a pretty good job, reasonable enough to shut them down a little bit because offensively, when I pulled them up, their numbers look like they're 12th in offense, so they're outside the top 10. The only guy that's really hitting for them right now is Profar. He's doing a great job. So I like the idea that we have a pitcher only has to really avoid that one guy in the lineup, and then all of a sudden we're holding that team down. Okay, so we hold the team down on the run side. So then we look at it and we go, well, what's the number in the game? The game on this is it's minus 134, but I don't know what it is now. Where's Seattle now? Seattle is minus 130. So that's the best number that you can get. It's minus 130. So you can get Seattle minus 130. So it was 134. I'm not, my personal opinion, I'm not comfortable with minus 130. It's a good number. Don't get me wrong. I think that you can bet that number. My line on the game, I think, was my number was Seattle minus 141. So anything under 145 provides value. It's EV positive. 130 is a pretty decent number. You're going to be a 3% EV positive play. So, but let's maximize our opportunity here. What are we really betting? We're going to be really betting against the pitcher for the Padres more than we're going to because we got to score runs and to win. That's how we got to do this. So when we pull up the Padres pitcher is that kid Mazur. And let me get to my pitcher report so I can get this information for you correctly. Mazur he absolutely is the number one pitcher tonight with the worst SOPS plus. It's 148. He's 48% worse than an average pitcher. Over the season, he's a 149, so he's consistently bad. He's 50% worse than just an average pitcher. At home, he's a 191, so he's been terrible at home. He's been better on the road. He's a 125 at night, so that's not very good. And then you look at Gilbert. Gilbert's a 66 at night and a 65 on the road and a 46 in his last 28. So he's been at least 35% better than an average pitcher on almost every one of those metrics. And on a whole, he's 54% better than an average pitcher. I think that he's going to be able to control this offense to a degree. And then offensively, I looked at San Diego. They're 12th. They're minus 15% weighted runs created plus right now. So they're not the best offense moving into this game. Now they got to face this pitcher. And then the Mariners, bad offense, but this guy walks 5.5 guys per inning or per 9 innings. He gives up 1.33 home runs. His xFIP number is 6.32. There's nobody with a 6 out there except him. So that means theoretically he's supposed to give up 6 runs in 9 innings the way he's pitching. So I like the fact that we're really good here. His whip rate, 207. That's two guys per inning on base. So Seattle should have plenty of opportunities to score some runs. So I think you should bet this game in a first 5, take Seattle first 5 minus a half a run and play it that way instead of a minus 140, minus 130, minus 135 number. And you're picking on Mazur. You're trying to get the runs in that way anyway. So you play them. You're taking Seattle and Gilbert not to give up more than 1 run. My total score in the first 5 innings on this game, if I can pull it up, there it is. I've got Seattle 3.5, San Diego 1. I know you can't score 3.5, but that's just the way the computer works. So it's either 3 runs or 4 runs, 3 or 4 to 1 in the first 5 innings. Give me the minus a half a run, and I think that that's a better play, and it's better value for your money, right? I mean, it's just better that way. So when you're doing these things, you're not necessarily trying to bypass a big line. You're trying to maximize value on your line, and you're fine-tuning your bet. In other words, you're betting against Mazur. You're not betting against San Diego's bullpen. And truthfully, San Diego's got a better offense than what Seattle does, so you don't want to face that 9 times. Shorten the game. You got the better pitcher. Give yourself a better opportunity to attack that pitcher in that short amount of time and just win the first 5 innings and you won your bet. And I think that's a better bet than, throwing your money out there at minus 130, minus 140, whatever the number was, that way. So the 3 bets tonight were Texas on the run line. Our Texas team total over 4.5. San Francisco team total over 3.5. And Seattle first 5 on the run line minus a half a run. Guys, I hope you appreciate some of the stuff that we go over and some of the stuff we do. Please don't hesitate to ask me questions. I mean, we need to get some good interaction going. Go follow me on Twitter at Webby20MLB. Go to my website mlb-daily.com. Sign up. Hey George, man, I appreciate you coming out there. Guys, look, some of you guys have been around forever. George seen me when maybe I didn't have gray hair. It's one of these things. He's followed me around for a while. So some of this stuff is important. Some of the stuff you learn as you go too. And George probably tell you, some of these things I'm telling you today aren't things I talked about, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or whatever. So George, I appreciate it. He says, great MLB information you put out, man. I appreciate that 100%. So the big things, guys, are several things, right? One of the things I'm trying to do is show people, specifically with baseball. Now football's coming. We'll work with football when it gets here, but specifically with baseball, how do you bet it? What do you look at? What are we talking about? What strategies can you use? How do you think things through? And how do you make good bets? And what do good bets look like? Because I'm so tired of these people online and these guys in certain places, and they just throw stuff out there, and you're supposed to believe what they say is gospel because that's who they are. Well, I mean, it's just a joke. So hopefully we can shine a little light on those things and those subjects. So anyway, go to my website. You can sign up to get a free newsletter. Every time I put an article out, it'll come to you. I haven't done one for a little while, but I need to start getting to writing. And then secondly, if you want to be a client, you can do that too. It's $100. It doesn't cost much. I'm not charging you. I saw somebody the other day, it was like $700. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I don't need your $700 to put in my bankroll to gamble with. That's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to drive this up because I think what we're doing is great. I think some of the stuff that we can do can lead to sponsorships, but sponsorships only come when you do several things to help me out. That's like the show, hit the bell thing, whatever they do with that stuff, subscribe, link, all that stuff that you're supposed to do that helps to drive the viewers up. And when the viewership goes up, there's opportunity for people to then go ahead and say, hey, I'll sponsor the show. I'll give you X, Y, and Z for a month or 2 months or whatever, and go from there. So hopefully that's kind of where this goes. And as we go along, if you have questions, make sure you ask. If there's topics you want me to cover, if there's games you want me to go over. There was one, before I sign off, there was one thing that I think that I thought was a great point. The other day I tried to make a point about a quorum of experts. Today, I'm going to make a point about thinking about betting just in general. So if you're a bettor, where can you bet and have the greatest success? And it just be anything. Where can it be? And the answer to that question is bet where the market is the weakest. So where would you find that? Well, let me share this with you. What if Mike Tyson and Jake Paul's fight goes off and they actually get this thing to go again, right? And they get it to go. Who really knows what to make that line? Anybody? Does anybody really know what to make that line? Well, when the market is soft like that and nobody knows what to do with the number, if you're a gambler, by God, you got to be there. That's a bet you got to be involved in. You might not like it. It might be scary. It might be this. It might be that. But when the market is telling you, I don't know what to make it, the bets are going to then sort of derive where it needs to go. But you need to get involved in that kind of a bet. You need to get involved in that kind of market. Some of you have access to like political stuff and, voting for the president and this, that, and the other, because those are volatile markets that nobody really knows what to make the market line and the number either. You make those kind of bets because that's your greatest chance to win. I was trying to relate this to a couple of things, right? And hold, right? Hold comes up in conversations sometimes around betting. And what is hold? Well, you'll see, like if you pull up an odds screen, like on Unabated or some of these places, they're going to show you what the hold is on these games. And the hold is the percentage of money that the sports book makes that they're holding back on that game. So in this case, I'm going to go over here to Unabated's numbers for a second and pull this up. And so the Texas Rangers game tonight, the total is 2.33%, 1.15% on the line. You want that to be as low or negative if you can. And negative means there is no hold. They don't know what to make the line. And the bettors have done something to it. So the greater the hold, theoretically, the kind of sharper the number is. They're making money on it because they're going to pay out both sides. That's the amount of money that they're going to make, regardless of how that payout goes. So you want low hold opportunities, right? So low hold opportunities. The Atlanta Braves tonight and the Diamondbacks tonight, 0.23, less than 0.5%, less than 0.25% hold on that game. I happen to be on that game. So one of the things that you have to look at when you're making bets is understand what you're betting and what makes a good bet. There's more to it than, like there's two sides to this. If you make a bet, did you make a good one? Or did you handicap a good handicap? Because you can do both. You can make a good bet and you can make a good handicap. Theoretically, you should win that bet, right? You can certainly, says George said, I like your relatively low volume but quality value betting discipline. You can't win long-term betting multiple games with crazy juice day in, day out. And that's the truth, right? So the reality is if you're paying the sports book all your winnings, that you're not going to, and especially if you're going to lose these games. So that brings up another thing I want to talk about here. So hold is one of these things where they have high holds in parlay markets, and specifically same game parlays and things like that. They have high holds, like we just said, hey, this was a small amount of hold, 0.23% or whatever it was. That's a terribly low market. But if you do a same game parlay or you do a parlay market, don't be surprised to see 10% hold, 15% hold, or even higher. They're crazy hold numbers. But I'm going to ask you this question: what do you want to be? What do you want to do? So the reason I ask you that question is because how are you going to get your bankroll? Are you a guy that comes into this and you've got $300,000 and you're going to put that as your bankroll to bet with? Most people don't do that. I wouldn't say most people. I would say of all the people that bet, there's probably 1% that does that. That's very real. So how do these guys get their money? Where do they get their big bankrolls at? Because there's big bankrolls. Well, what they do is they go and say, I understand how this works. I need to take some swings. And what does that mean? Well, that means, they're going to put $50 on a 6-leg parlay, and by God, if they hit it, they just clocked that $150,000. I'm going to tell you need to do that. That's not a good bet. It's not a good bet. You're going to lose, and you're going to say, Scott, why are you telling me to lose? I'm not telling you to lose. I'm telling you to decide what you want to be and what you want to do. If you want a $150,000 bankroll to bet with, you're not going to go win it with 2% ROI on minus 110 bets. You're not. The volume of betting that you have to do to get there is too high. You can't get there that way. So I'm just going to tell you, you got to take some swings. As long as those swings, you understand what you're doing, that you're not reckless, that you're not crazy, right? And you're not just throwing money away, that you think you have some sort of a legitimate chance to win some of these things. But take your shots, take your swings. I'm not telling you to do it every day. I'm just telling you maybe do it once a week. But whatever you do, take your swing, because if you want a $150,000 bankroll, holy crap, you're gonna do that. George says, yeah, the books love these 16 parlay players. They roll out the red carpet for them. That's the other part of this. So the other part of this is what I'm trying to say is, if the sports book loves that kind of a bettor, they're not going to ever kick you out of the sports book if you're making those kinds of bets. Especially if you're doing, same game parlays, right? If you're, I don't know, Baltimore Colts, for God's sakes, Baltimore Ravens are playing the Cleveland Browns, and you decide, well, the Ravens are going to win this game, and so I'm going to bet the Ravens, and I think the quarterback he's going to run for 200 yards today, so I'm going to bet over his yards number. I think the wide receiver is going to do this. I think the tight end's going to catch a touchdown pass. I think this guy's going to do that. And then you put like 5 bets in this same game parlay. By God, the sports books, they're going to have a VIP guy call you. And they're going to go, man, you can't quit us. You got to keep putting these $50 bets out there every single week. These 50, because we love you. That's how they get rich. That's how they make their money. But I will tell you, they got to pay out. They got to pay out because somebody hits them. So you're never going to hit it unless you swing at it. And if you want a $150,000 bankroll, that's how you're going to get it. You're not going to get it by betting $50 to $100 a game and getting a 2% return on your money. You're not. It won't ever happen that way. So don't be afraid to take your swing, but at the same time, understand that that's not good betting, but it's taking a swing. It's exactly what it is. And then once you've built your bankroll, it's great, right? So you have it, and then once you have your bankroll, then you can bet you got $150,000 in your bankroll. Now I can bet $1,000 on this game. I can bet 500 on that one, or 500 on that one, or 600 on this one, or whatever. And then all of a sudden you're making a living on gambling, right? That's kind of how it works. So anyway, point being is have fun with this, guys. Hopefully you learn some stuff, but interact. Ask me questions. Be glad to answer anything I can. I'm getting ready for football, starting to work on some of that stuff. Look, baseball is my deal. Everything that I have is my website's all geared towards baseball. Everything's geared to baseball. So, football's coming though. And I am excited because, I see these things on Twitter and a lot of people are talking about, all this competition for these final spots for the playoffs for Major League Baseball, because there's a lot of teams that are qualified to be within, say, 5 games of each other for these wild card spots. And that's truth. That there's no question. But I will say this. There's, I think, 3 weeks to the trade deadline. And obviously we miss, half a week here coming up because of the All-Star break. So there's really about a week and a half of stuff that's going to get happening in maybe 2 weeks of stuff. Once those things are determined, you're going to get shocked at certain things. So one of the things that was shocking to me, and I don't know, some of this stuff is blowing smoke and some of this stuff isn't, but the Texas Rangers, Chris Young is the general manager of the Texas Rangers, did a great job last year getting them to the playoffs, getting them into the World Series, won the World Series for Christ's sakes. So he did a great job. This year he's talking about getting rid of Scherzer and getting rid of some of these guys because they don't think that they're where they need to be. Well, I didn't expect that. I thought hey, look, they got Tyler Mahle and they got Jacob deGrom, and they got some guys coming that can help them, but maybe they don't think that they can hang around. I don't know. Their offense is starting to click. So, my thought is go get another pitcher. You've had no pitchers for all this time. Go get another pitcher, and you're right in the race. Seattle's not that good. You can pass Seattle. Now, Seattle's got to recognize that they're not that good. So they're going to go get bats probably, so who's selling and who's, like the Rays are getting rid of a couple of players, but there's playing. So some of these guys, like they got rid of Matone today, and I can't remember the other guy they got rid of just recently, but some of these guys they're DFAing anyway. They're getting rid of them, and then instead of getting rid, they don't clear waivers. Somebody wants them, so they have to make a trade, and they get that stuff. So we're not really in the meat and potatoes of the trades that are going to help to drive these guys to the finish line. Don't be surprised if the Braves go get an outfielder, stuff like that, and make their team better. Watch the Phillies. I've heard some things about the Phillies. Are working on some big time deals. So as things go along, I think that the trade deadline stuff will impact who's really involved and who's not involved. So we'll see how all that plays out as we go. I would be very careful at this point to unless you're playing like the Braves or somebody who's going to make the playoffs. Whatever kind of bets you're doing for futures and stuff, be careful. People might be going, yeah, I'm going to sell you on the Reds. Okay, well, the Reds are a ways away, but if the Reds go make some moves, they could be really good. But the point I'm trying to make, though, here is, guys, is that these teams are going to change a lot. And as we go along, some of these teams you're going to know who to bet on and keep an eye on it. And if you don't follow them, use your Twitter and follow as many beat writers as you can get. And then that way you get some of this inside information anyway. All right, guys, look, good luck tonight. And I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is a 6:15. George says trade deadline, expanded rosters. Next thing to add into handicaps, no question. And we'll talk about how call-up pitchers work. And kind of where that goes and what kind of lineups are getting thrown out there, because it's not just the pitchers. Sometimes you got these guys that go out there and I don't want to call them a AAA team, but in a lot of ways they are, and they're just trying to see what youth they have and who's available and what they're going to look like for next year. And we'll look at some of that stuff and talk about how all that gets played into the back half of Major League Baseball betting. All right, guys, again, signing off. Today was Tuesday. We will be back tomorrow at 6:15. George, I appreciate you jumping in here and talking. Guys, Jay jumped in. Jay Berry, I appreciate that. And look, just whatever comments you want to make, whatever questions you have, if there's games you want me to break down, we'll do all that stuff. We'll have some fun with this. We'll make this what you want it to be, and we'll go from there. So good luck to everybody tonight, and I will see you tomorrow at 6:15, guys, with a whole bunch of other games to talk about. Have a great night. Talk to you later.